Get ready to run for your life with the awesome force that is Shin Godzilla.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies. And now, here's Popcorn Talk's Otaku Movie Anatomy.
Hello, everyone. We have some important news breaking.
Oh my god.
Some would say.
Fucking stop it.
There is a giant monster attacking Tokyo.
I like that's a good intro. I like that. Good job. Good job hosting. Good
His
hosting.
name is Gojira. So thank you for watching Otaku Movie Anatomy. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and comment on iTunes. Hit thumbs up on YouTube and follow us at the Popcorn Talk on the Twitter.
Yeah.
And with us today is Michelle, our awesome usual guest, and a special guest, Doc, who is an amazing human being.
He has a really cute dog named Leia.
That I do.
And if you could observe his immaculate mustache, it takes years.
It's nice.
It takes 200 artisans to craft every day.
It'd be crazy if it snapped off suddenly. I would probably scream like a blood-curdling, life-changing scream.
And
Look.
we all got to watch the premiere, the American premiere of Shin Godzilla.
Which is from the Toho Studios version.
Yes, the Toho studio, not the 2014 Godzilla version.
I shall not speak of such things.
So we have to just shout out to Funimation and Justin Ross for inviting us to this awesome premiere.
Y'all.
It was a super great event as per the usual. And also, Shin Godzilla is a crazy, amazing movie.
Yeah.
I really liked it.
I think we overall enjoyed. No one was like, "Fuck this movie, get out!" Boo.
Yeah.
We're good.
I
It was
heard
good.
one person say
and
that.
they're a piece of garbage.
I agree. And
Did you get their
They
name?
probably
No.
Because
They
we were
were
gonna
on the
cyberbully
camera.
the shit out of them.
They were on camera, like being interviewed.
Oh,
and he's just like, no, I didn't like it. I didn't like it. And I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. He probably did so much fun.
He probably didn't like puppies. He
Yeah.
probably didn't like rainbow. He probably didn't like anything that was awesome and sweet.
Yeah, agreed.
Oh man, you guys can't see it because my computer's covering. Here, I'll close for a second. But they gave all these totally awesome Shin Godzilla t-shirts. But apparently, like Max got one and he like fucking lost it. Sorry, I'm f-bombing so much. It's like a Tuesday, all right? And then Doc didn't even know they were giving them out.
Yeah, so we're trash
you
human
guys are
beings.
I blame
garbage
you,
people.
Justin.
Yeah.
I blame you.
I'm not
How
selling
dare
on
you not
eBay,
put it
so-
in my car for me so that I
Yes.
wouldn't forget? Damn you, Justin.
All right.
Okay, so just first things first. This movie is actually called Godzilla Resurgence in America.
Is it? I
It
haven't
is.
seen any
Interesting.
posters that say that.
Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know why, but that's what it's titled on IMDb, and that's what I guess the reviewer copies. Like that's what everyone
what it
got
said?
from the press.
Because now that Funimation's doing, which by the way, the reason there was a red carpet screening here is because they're doing a theatrical release across the U.S. So if you guys want to go watch those, go to Funimation.com. There's a link for Shin Godzilla, and I'll tell you where you can see it in actual theaters. It's awesome. You should do.
It's playing October 11th to the 18th,
Yeah,
so you
but
still
it's-
got plenty of time.
And for those of you lucky enough in New York that get to see the premiere tomorrow, I believe.
Yeah, it's tomorrow
They're
before
having
Comic-Con.
another premiere, and Justin the Jet Setter is on his
whole
way
crew.
there
It's
right
not
now.
just
yeah, apparently there.
We always
already.
talk of Justin like he's the only
Yeah.
guy who works at Funimation, but it's like a whole crew of PR people, and like it's great. But anyway, so look under it's Shin Godzilla. The word Shin means new, so new Godzilla.
It's
They're not
new
using the
Godzilla.
kanji for Shin though, so it could be anything.
Could be the shiniest of he just has really big shins. Like this Godzilla's, that's
They
what he's
focused a
known
lot
for.
on his legs, so
A lot, yeah. I mean, he
They could
does
very well
leg
be the
day,
case.
but only leg day.
Yeah.
You could tell from his
Every
tiny
day.
arms.
Oh, we'll get to that. The tiny arms are like the best part of Godzilla.
Gotta work on that, Godzilla.
Oh, man.
Gotta work on that.
Yeah.
All right. So just some random movie facts. This is the 31st film in the franchise, not
many.
including the two English ones. The first one was in 2000 with Matthew Broderick, which also spawned a cartoon, if anyone remembers the Godzilla cartoons.
I remember
put it
the
out of my
80s
memory.
ones.
It was amazing.
Oh.
wrong.
It was, though.
In the 2000s?
In the 2000s,
Because
yes.
I'm thinking about the 80s cartoons, which were amazing. Or were they 70s cartoons? They were like really old, and Godzilla was like this playful. There's like a baby Godzilla, and he was like,
I think that's Denver the Last Dinosaur.
No, there was a cartoon that was Godzilla. Fuck you guys.
And he played the guitar and he rode a skateboard, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is the one with Littlefoot? And it was like something about
Hey,
time.
tangent.
Anyway.
Speaking of tangents.
So it was the 31st film in the franchise. It's the 29th film produced by Toho, and Toho is famous for obviously Godzilla, but also having the man in the suits, the kaiju in the suits, and they kind of perpetuated that style of like monsters plus miniatures and that school of visual effects.
It's called tokusatsu.
Yeah.
Which people use in like the film industry, even though it's a Japanese word. Just means what you said.
Yeah. Thank you. I did not know that. So.
Really? You never heard the term tokusatsu? People were like flinging it around when I was reviewing. When I was doing a screening for Attack on Titan. Oh my god, guys! The live action.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and they did a lot of guys in suits for that too. They used a lot of Toho Cinema stuff. Sets.
So it was released in Japan July 7th. July 29th, sorry. Well, I don't know why I said that. July 29th, 2016, and it earned 635 million yen, or 6.1 million US. And for a Japanese movie, that is actually very
It's really doing impressive. Really well. Like all of my Japanese friends are talking about it on social media. It's like blowing the fuck up. For good reason. It's great.
I don't have any Japanese friends, but I'm pretty sure that it's pretty big over there. Let's see. The directors are Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, who are two of the four founders of Gainax. So if you don't know Hideaki Anno, his prominent work is Evangelion. And if you watch this movie, you can definitely tell.
So not new Evangelion, old Evangelion. Is he working on new one as well? Both. Okay, I didn't know.
And also, if you don't remember Shinji Higuchi, he's also known for the Gamera series, which is the big turtle dude.
Gamera?
Yes.
Gamera.
Gamera?
Shut up!
That didn't sound familiar.
Gamera.
All right, Naruto.
Naruto.
And also, he was the director of the Attack on Titan live-action movie that we also love and adore.
What a buddy.
And so that's why the tokusatsu is a part of, I guess, this kind of. I guess these two directors from Gainax, they really are into that and are part of kind of like the old school of it. Which,
you
to be
can
fair,
really tell.
Yeah.
Like, that was amazing.
The puppetry of Attack on Titan part, I actually liked.
Yeah, I did. They blended it with CG, of course, but it was nice.
That part was super cool, and I wish there was either all of that or none of that. And we're actually going to cover it because this particular film doesn't have an actual man in a suit. This is, I think, one of the first like Toho
Really, I thought
ones
they had at least it's a physical prop though.
Yeah, they have a physical prop. But it's animatronic.
Oh.
It's like all the dinosaurs you see in Jurassic Park. So
it does have a tiny hand.
Yeah, and he has a little tiny hand, and his design is very strange.
Oh, sorry, real quick. We are on live chat, so if you guys want to ask us questions or say anything, what's up, Mr. Hobbitino? Good name. And then Laura Markland, what's up, buddy?
Hey, friend, that was also there. So some actors.
Some people.
Some people.
Good segue.
Good segue. I know. I don't know what the good chat from the chat to back to the subject segue is.
I did kind of throw it in there.
Do the papers. Get us back.
Oh yeah.
Reporting live from Tokyo.
All right,
we're back.
What do we have next?
So we have the usual actors. Hiroki Hasegawa. I just don't want to mess up the names.
I can just do it. Hiroki Hasegawa, that's right.
Yeah, and who was Rando Yaguchi?
No, that's you fucked it up. It's Rando Yaguchi. So
it's Yaguchi. I'm missing an I in there. And he's the main protagonist. He's also the deputy chief cabinet secretary.
So like, there's so many government titles in this movie. Like, you basically will not know any of them except for prime minister, which I learned the word for prime minister like real quick because it sounds like the word sorry. It's sorry. So I'm like, are they saying sorry in like English? Like, oh, that's the word for prime minister. They said it like so many times.
And it didn't help that there were like role switches throughout as well. Like,
because he gets promoted.
Spoilers. Yeah, stuff happens.
Just when I thought I was getting it down, it's like, oh wait, who are you now? Like, oh.
So it's not so much that their titles are important. It's just that they're all lower than the prime minister. Is I guess what you could say.
Well, the whole thing, the way that it starts, we might as well just get into it. The way that it starts is basically just a whole cabinet of people, right? So you open up with this mysterious boat and someone that seems to have like committed suicide or is just missing, and then they go into the Tokyo Tunnel. I think what was it was the Tokyo Light Bridge or something. It was like
it was the under ocean tunnel.
Yeah.
I don't know the specific
and so
name of it,
that bursts and all of this red water comes out. It's not just normal seawater. It's like bloody
ass water.
And that's
I like how they never like mentioned it at the beginning. Like they just treated it like a normal ocean leak. And I was
they don't mention the blood.
Myself, like, did I really see it as red? Like, I was really confused for a little while.
It was also kind of like they were just like, oh, it's like volcanic activity, and I'm like, oh yeah, it must be volcanic. Like you don't know.
Like
but actually, that's a part of Anno's style. Like that's when you know from the very beginning that you're going to see a lot of Evangelion stuff because he loves red water. Like red water is like his symbolism for usually apocalypse.
Interesting.
Yeah. So when I saw that, I was like, "Oh man, I know what the style and direction this is going." And from the very beginning, I was like, then super hyped because I didn't really know. Everyone keeps saying like from the mind of Evangelion, Shin Godzilla, but like, what does that really mean?
Yeah, because it's not an anime.
Yeah, it's not an anime. It's a live action. It's a Godzilla movie. That doesn't. Besides the fact that there's a giant thing, it has nothing to do with Evangelion. So why do they keep mentioning it over and over again? Right. And you realize because Anno has a very specific style of editing and directing.
Yes.
And just seeing that and just like all the cuts in between. Throughout the whole movie, that style persists.
Yeah, so you could kind of characterize it as, I mean, very loosely, as sharp editing, so cutting from like, someone tapping their finger to someone's face to like right back and forth. Strong drum musics all the time, real good.
That's actually some of the music was taken directly from the new Evangelion rebuild. He used the same composer for a music technician for Evangelion for this one too. That's why there's so many like familiar sounds, and not to mention that they just used the old mono soundtrack from the original Godzilla.
Yeah. Okay.
Too.
It did seem like, I mean, there's so many throwbacks that touch upon the old Godzilla movies, which were great. I mean, some of the things were like shot for shot for like referencing other movies. There's also a lot of like there's a lot of stillness at the beginning of the movie, especially of just like seeing the water, like it's like everything's very far away. Like you're looking at a camera from a bridge far away, looking at the red water, and I feel like that style. I don't know. It made it feel very like early 2000s. I don't know how to describe it.
It's very campy. I think that's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
Campy.
But I also think there was definitely a reason for it. I mean, I feel like this, like we were talking right after the movie, and the movie, I can also talk. It really, I don't know, it really I felt it was trying to showcase like what this sort of ordeal or attack would be like as a whole, like for the whole city, and not just like a couple individual peoples like we've seen in previous movies, or it really focused on many different things to showcase like every part of the community being affected by this. And I feel like those wide shots towards the beginning kind of gave us a perspective like, okay, this is going to be affecting everything.
Yeah.
And an interesting thing that I found this movie is influenced by the Fukushima nuclear meltdown, which we all know was super crazy tragic, and that's very obvious. But something that is a little less is the 2011 tsunami and earthquake that happened. The really big earthquake and tsunami. And so in the beginning scenes, you see a bunch of people cut from cell phone footage to internet footage to streaming footage to all these other footage, and that's actually directly from the influence of the earthquake and tsunami when we were all watching it ourselves from our Facebook and all of that, and we were able to see how people were seeing it in real time. And so like that was just sort of a modern touch that I feel like a lot of the 2014 remake of the Godzilla movie, even the 2001, like that's kind of like the stuff that you don't really touch on, that like human element of it being like plausible, know? And I thought that very much lended to kind of the style of the movie. And now that I'm thinking about it, we should probably get into the movie synopsis. If you couldn't guess, it's about Godzilla.
But a new one. This is not a sequel in any way to anything else.
So it's the way that it starts is that they see that there's all these earthquakes and there's this underwater damage and seismic activity and little bits of radiation, and people are wondering like, oh, what's going on? Of course, it opens up with the whole government cabinet of people just trying to give advice to the prime minister, and that's layers upon layers and upon layers of like advisors, like technicians, like informants, like all that.
It's like 15 minutes of meetings.
Yeah.
It's this movie is basically as exciting a movie about meetings could ever be.
Yeah.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Even like those war movies where they're all sitting in front of like a war council being like, oh, what should we do? Not as exciting as this in terms of meetings, let me tell you. And so the prime minister is getting bombarded by all of these other counselors, and that's when we meet Higuchi, who is the main character. And he thinks that it is some sort of giant monster because there's little bits of footage out there on the internet and streaming, and so people, the whole thing is like the prime minister hears this and is like, that's kind of a weird joke, you know, like this is the internet, like it could be a hoax or whatever. We have to go with what's the most realistic and most plausible. And of course, in this movie is also very funny.
Yeah.
The way that like things are set up, like the meetings are set up, when the prime minister sits there in front of everyone, he's like, it's just probably some volcanic activity. Then immediately someone comes over and while he's on the podium whispers, and then he's like,
JK,
it was a giant monster. And then out of the water emerges not your typical Godzilla.
I kind of thought, so I was confused. Again, this, by the way, guys, this review is full of goddamn spoilers. Just turn it off if you don't want to see spoilers. But, so I kind of thought it was going to be a smaller creature that Godzilla comes and chases. Kind of like the American Godzilla movie.
Like it's supposed to, Yeah,
so I was like, oh, is it going to be like a tiny Mothra or something? But because it looks like a little worm guy with like, it's a little red squirmy guy with it has little stubbins instead of no hands.
He's like a lungfish. That's what they described him as.
Yes.
Or like, you know those little salamanders that live in water?
Yes, it has little back feet but no front feet.
Yes, kind of. Yeah.
And it's like, it has little gills that like splurt out blood, which is, I was like,
that's also a very brutal. That's a very Evangelion thing as well.
Yes, just bloody,
just blood or like some sort of weird realistic gore from a giant thing. Like when I saw that, I was like, yeah, I see where it's going with this. But
so the Godzilla comes onto land.
He goes onto land, and he is like this weird. He's kind of adorable. He's kind of like this cute little lungfish guy. His eyes are
like this, so it's like all askew. And
it reminded me of my pug.
It does have big pug eyes.
It's very confused, big eyes.
Saucers.
Wreaking havoc in her wake.
Have you ever seen those internet videos where it's like a dog and they put those googly eyes on them? That's basically the best way to describe lungfish Godzilla. And so he pops out, and he's just devastating everything, just demolishing whatever is in his path, which is only like one ward of Tokyo, which is like the farthest end. It's very hard. They go through a lot of different names, so it was a little hard to figure out exactly what part of Tokyo it was. We just know that it was Tokyo, or it was like the outer wards, and so now they just don't know what to do. He's basically unstoppable. They've never had a giant monster before. And
here's a screen cap of, I think this is the evolved version coming out of the water.
This is the evolved version, yeah. So that's when it kind of goes back to more meetings. And this is a part of what Anno wanted, was to like have this be kind of a critical view of like how the Japanese government runs, which is having seniors and like subordinates and subordinates for the subordinates, and then how that all that information has to go up the wire each and every time. Basically, just the politics of it, and that's basically stopping any sort of response that would have actually helped.
Yeah. They say it so many times in the movie, like, we can't look bad in public, or this is an election year or something, or like, if I do it wrong now, I'm never gonna get like re-elected to my position. So it's all about politics rather than saving the people who are dying, like actually dying. And they're not like, we the viewer are seeing the footage, like the YouTube footage or whatever, but like no one in the cabinet, you'll notice they all have just papers and pens in front of them. Nobody has computers. Nobody has like a cell phone open. Like, they're all just like analog as fuck. And that's kind of how the Japanese government is right now, to be honest. Like a lot of part, like, so we always think of Japan like the culture being like super advanced and stuff, and that's true in some ways, but when it comes to like business stuff, like politics or like formal business meetings, it's very like, here's 7,000 pieces of paper, here's a pen, just sit in a big long row, and we're all gonna sit here quietly and stare at each other, and we're not gonna like, there's no like live checking of facts. It's just, it can be like that. Yeah. So it was very like, it made me feel like I thought it was really very realistic because there was like there was like 20,000 copier machines to make more papers. Like you kept showing shots of them like putting more copying machines into the room and stuff like that, and like one person would have a computer. Yeah. And that person was like usually laughed at.
It was just very frantic. That's what it felt like. You know, anytime they tried to, because it makes sense if it was like, this normal economic plan, but it's like this crazy unmitigated like tragedy. It's not even like an earthquake in which you can kind of like figure out when the earthquake is coming and have like a response. This was basically just a natural disaster in the form of googly eye Godzilla.
Yeah. Googly eye.
And that's like not something that they ever even thought to prepare for. Yeah. Obviously, it's like there's natural disasters and then there's this. Yeah. It's like, why would we even have a plan for that?
Yeah, and there's a guy that literally like comes out and he's just like, we don't have a plan for this. Like, why would?
Yeah, like you're trying to pass the buck to a different department, and that was like, it's just like people just died. A lot of people died, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, and so in my head when he said that, I was thinking, but you're Japan, like you should just be dealing with giant shit all the time, And I forgot that it wasn't quite
a world where that has not happened yet.
Yeah, which I was surprised about because they've already had modern era and there were no Evangelions and stuff, and I was like, anyway, the point is that
so Mini Godzilla without the arms.
Mini Godzilla without the arms evolves, and he in the middle of whatever, just for no real reason, he kind of like stands upright and little hands grow out and he his skin hardens and then he basically digivolves.
He becomes like a mini Godzilla.
I think the reason he did was because they were saying in the cabinet that his legs can't support him and he will never walk on land, and so he's like, fuck you. Yeah, Will.
He heard that somehow.
Super hearing, man.
He had something to prove. He got a chip on his shoulder.
God damn.
He got to prove to the world that he can be a Godzilla that stands upright on land.
I think I even saw his head turn like right after the cabinet said that. He was like, wait, what?
Shut up. I don't think that's what happens in the movie.
That was totally...
No, I totally... that's what happens.
It was hot. I don't know, whatever. So this guy, he turns into Mini Godzilla, and then he's done fucking up shit. He goes back into the ocean to cool down.
And that's when we kind of get into the origins of Godzilla. And I guess the professor that they show in the beginning, or the boat of the professor that they show in the beginning, his name is Goromaki, and I guess it was some sort of like ancient animal, and I guess it was the Americans. It was either the Americans or like the Japanese. I forget who it was specifically, but they basically dumped a bunch of like nuclear waste or a bunch of like,
it was supposed to be
biohazard waste.
The Japanese government back in like the 70s were dumping, and then this guy was protesting it, and they tried to shut him up, so he moved away from Japan, I believe.
Yeah, but he had figured this out. He had all these plans of this creature and how it was going to evolve and how its internal systems were going to work, and he didn't say anything though. And he just kind of committed suicide, and you see that this sort of this weird thread of like you figure it out. Like
he left his notes for the government to find.
He left all his work in this one giant like sheet of butcher paper and
and then they
figured it out.
Yeah, they figured it out.
In an origami crane. I was like, God damn.
Well, you don't find that out till later.
Oh, spoilers.
So they have, I think it was a couple of days, like 360 days or something. It was they had like a month or something to like, because basically now that Godzilla is gone and he goes back to the ocean to like cool himself off, they figure out that he runs by nuclear fusion, and that all his fins and his blood are like a cooling system, and that's why he like kind of radiates all of this radiation and heat. And they figure out that maybe they can just coagulate his blood, like they can just try to make it so that his cooling systems don't work anymore, or he cools himself to death. It was a little weird now that I think about it, because they weren't specific as to like how that was going to work, because if they're trying to...
Well, it wasn't real science, first of all.
Sure, of course.
So they couldn't actually explain it. But it was basically because he needed to... What was it?
He can regenerate through nuclear fission.
Right, so they had to stop it.
All he needed was mist and air to survive. And I also found out that he's asexual.
Right.
Which I don't know why they figured that out too. They're just like, he's asexual.
We checked. We had a plane go up his butthole. We checked, but that didn't happen. So yeah, he's in the ocean. They figure all this stuff out. But then when he comes back onto land, he comes back. He's giant.
He's big. He's much bigger. He has less googly eye, and he has a little bit more arm, but definitely not enough arm for it to proportionally make sense.
Yeah, so, but it's like the full version of Shin Godzilla we're gonna see.
And he has a giant ass tail.
Yes, and they finally decide.
He had the tail from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he didn't have like he goes into the water and he comes out and his tail is like 4 times the size of him though. Like then it becomes really big and wobbly.
Yeah.
Which I have to say when I first saw it I was like, oh, he looks scary as hell. Like this Godzilla is frightening. You know, the other Godzillas you're just like you're kind of scary, but you're kind of also cute. Like, you know, if
it was so much like the proportioning of, you know, how they framed all the shots of him and like I guess because Godzilla had no characterization in this movie. He wasn't like a kind creature or a starving one or a mean one. He was just like showing up and fucking up shit and then going back in the ocean and come back and doing it again. Like there's no like most Godzilla movies have like, oh, he's trying to protect his eggs or something. It's a girl. Like there's always some kind of shit like that. But there was none of that. So it was kind of more scary. Like it was more like, you know, like the angels and Evangelion just coming down to destroy
they just
humanity.
Fuck shit up, yeah.
And we had to and it was scarier, I think, to me. Because the humans had no way of fighting it. Yeah. They go through this montage of like, we're gonna do missiles. Okay, no missiles. How about grenades or bombs? I don't know the words.
And then they were like,
keep going a step up and a step up, and
that was like
phasing it.
A really cool scene too, because basically they just, I feel like Anno is very much like a military otaku.
Oh my god, you can tell he was so excited to like write all these like real ass planes and tanks and everything.
And the scene is like this super tense scene. And then you see all these tanks and stuff, but like you can't help but tell when he puts fucking what it is. It's like the Cougar 275D or something.
Across the screen,
everything
for what it was. So that's when I was like, oh yeah, this guy really loves military shit. Yeah. And there's a lot of battling, obviously, and they try to destroy it. Obviously, it's immortal because it is immortal. And then he kind of goes into berserker mode because the Americans start bringing these bombers, and
so the Americans fuck everything up.
To be fair,
has that ever happened?
Yeah. What are you talking? Like, what movie does that happen in?
So they asked for assistance.
They did. So in the beginning, they have a. You can take it from here. I can't remember.
So many meetings. Basically, what happens is the Americans are interested in. They figure out there's nuclear fusion happening in the Godzilla. So all the countries are interested in the power it's generating. So what they do is the Americans start coming in. They're interested in kind of why it's how it's powering itself. But they're also like on standby for fighting it. So anyway. They're like, oh, our missiles and crap didn't work. Americans fly in. They fly in. They use like the heavy artillery bombs. You see the Godzilla like scream and go down.
Tell them about the aid.
Huh?
Tell them about the American aid. Kyoko and Patterson.
Hold on, let's just. Okay, so anyway, they bomb Godzilla, and then it freaks out. It's actually hurt. So then it starts shooting out lasers from the back of his. It's amazing. It's really cool.
And that's when they kind of introduce his signature nuclear breath. The way that they do it too is super awesome because it goes through different states. Like first he's just like vomiting gas on the floor.
Gas,
just like Brah, and all this gas is like permeating the city, and then it ignites and then just turns into a very hot flame, and the hot flame sort of goes it focuses and it turns into basically plasma, which I'm assuming that's what they were going for.
Plasma lasers.
From my take on it was that they were, because the bombs actually penetrated his back and through his skin, it started overheating him, and so it was almost like it wasn't on purpose out of anger. It was like a venting, like it's too hot. I have to like vent this out. Similar how nuclear reactors will have if they start overheating, and that's why like at each point that occurred. Like each stage of his like defense, it occurred because of some sort
being
of
attacked.
Being attacked in the overheating because the bombs went through his back and heated them all up on
so
the
the
inside.
humans topped the Godzilla.
I mean, actually, that does make a lot of sense. I think to a certain point, it kind of was cognizant of the fact that it was being attacked and then kind of used it. But that does make a lot of sense because
I feel like it's how he discovered that. Like he didn't. I don't think he did it out of anger. I think it was like, oh, I need to do this, and then he realized like, oh, this is actually gonna help protect me from these assholes. So,
which is it's an interesting take too, because as Michelle was saying, it's definitely more of a force of nature than it is a creature. Like creatures, they run, they hide, and they do all that stuff, and this is just sort of like a. I mean, even if it was a creature, it doesn't really need to think about anything because it's indestructible and super huge, so nothing really seems like a threat.
Looks like a burnt marshmallow skin.
It does. He looks delicious.
Yeah.
But he also has a nice glow to him, too.
Yeah, he's underneath Bernie parts are real Bernie. So after this, Godzilla, is this when he like stands still right after that?
Yeah. He goes into dormant. He goes in hibernation.
But his eyes don't close. He's just his little. Our friend Lauren was saying it looks like the Easter Bunny chocolate eyes. They're like the white things with like the little dot in it. These eyes don't close. He's just like, I'm sleeping. Leave me alone.
Don't bother me.
And during this time, the UN meets and they decide that this has to be destroyed, and the Americans volunteer to do it with their nuclear bombs.
Which is very American.
However, there's a long tradition of Godzilla movies being about. They call it nuclear paranoia. So after the bombing of Hiroshima, Fukushima, Nagasaki, there's always been a lot of literary works, books, movies, TV shows, kind of about, even if it's not directly about those bombings, it's about like the fear of it happening again, which is warranted. So Godzilla is a huge offshoot of that. There was an event in particular, I'd have to Google it, I can't remember, sorry, that was directly preceding the first Godzilla movie. It was a U.S. testing on some island in Japan that, it like fucked up the whole island. Like it basically like mini Chernobyl it. So it was kind of a reaction to that. This movie you mentioned earlier is a reaction to the partly to the government response, I think, during the tsunami, and then also the response to the nuclear meltdown at Fukushima. So it's reacting to that, but right around this part in the movie, all the Americans all the foreigners come in, and they're kind of forcing Japan's hand. So basically, America gives them 3 days or 2 weeks, I think it was.
It was 2 weeks.
They somehow I don't know how they figured this out. They calculate how long Godzilla's gonna be dormant.
Well, it was the amount of fission that it was able to generate.
It was fine, so it was fine. So they have 2 weeks, or America's gonna come and totally nuke all of Tokyo. They're gonna have to get rid of that whole city, and so they're like, we have to save Nihon. So they have their crack team of weirdos and scientists to figure out how to cool down that Godzilla.
Because Yaguchi, that guy, he's a rebel, and he was just like, we're just gonna bring all the freaks and geeks in here.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. I love that team. That was great.
I just really like the UN and Americans stance on it. It's like, okay, so we're gonna bomb the shit out of you, but it's cool because we're totally gonna help you rebuild. So it's not even a big deal. Don't even stress. We got this.
Yeah, it's like you're not destroying a culture.
It's such a terrible.
They were portrayed very polarizingly, and with good cause. I wouldn't call the movie anti-American, but it's not.
Look, to be perfectly honest, I feel like that's a relatively. It's not a ridiculous response. Maybe there's we can have more time, but this thing realistically, you would want to destroy it as soon as possible.
Sure.
Also, they did find that through the evolution, somehow they figured out that it would soon sprout wings.
Yeah.
So that's why the UN got so freaked out, because they're like, if if we give this any more time, it could land on any one of our continents.
Yeah.
So the response, I don't think it was the response that was so polarizing. It was just how they portrayed all Americans, all English-speaking people were the worst in this movie. Where do they find these guys? First of all, who are these actors?
It's the 5 white dudes that teach English. They're just I just see some other career.
They're the worst.
Let's
talk about Kayoko a little bit. Is her name Kayoko?
Kayoko.
Kayoko. Ann Patterson is her name.
Yeah, she's played by Satomi Ishihara, and her name is Kayoko Ann Patterson, and I believe she's supposed to be half. That's what I'm assuming she's supposed to be.
I think she's just supposed to be...
or adopted. I can't tell.
Yeah, I think she's either supposed to be Nisei or Sansei or something. She keeps referencing my grandmother, saw the bombing in Hiroshima. Yeah. They bring it up.
But her last name is Patterson, so unless she's married, which I'm pretty sure she wasn't.
I was my last name is Bradley. Come on.
They kept saying, though, that her father was I think she was half because they kept saying her father was like
a great
really high
politician.
up.
Yeah. Oh, and she was using his
coattails.
yeah.
That's why she was gonna be the president
They
in her
mentioned
40s.
how bad she wants to be a president. So
Yeah,
much.
even though she can hardly speak English, that's really not her fault.
I just want there to like hire one pronunciation coach. I could do it. Toho cinemas. If you guys,
Hire.
I used to do this for like $20 an hour when I was in Japan. It was not a big deal.
Social links are down here.
Anyway, so like
here
the English
somewhere.
is horrible. So get ready, because as English speaking people, when you hear professionals pretending to be, American,
Not the
you're
most
like
cringy. Not the most cringy.
It's not the worst, but you're just kind of like, wait, whoa. You kind of pull you out of the movie for a second. You're like, oh, you're supposed to be the government, representative from America. All right, whatever.
Yeah, the ultimate cringe though was the discussion on the plane where they didn't
with the
even show
president.
his
With the
face.
president.
Yeah.
You just see
That
hands.
that was so bad.
To be fair, though,
President Ross was
Yeah.
it?
President
From
Ross.
Friends.
It was Ross from Friends.
Because when you think America, you think Friends. Like that's duh. To be fair to the Americans, like they gave them like an extra day. They gave them 24
They went to
hours.
bat for him.
Yeah.
And the Germans helped them a lot. The Germans.
And the Germans.
With the math.
gave up their
Did you help them with the
supercomputers.
math? Yeah.
They needed like twice the computing power, so
Just
Yeah, they were like,
computer-
let's just all
internet
help each
power.
other.
So basically, the end of the movie, you guys can guess what happens. We shouldn't probably spell it out.
Godzilla destroys the world.
Yeah.
Godzilla eats
so with these
everybody.
dire circumstances, they must fight to win the day, and then
They
shit
try to
happens.
coagulate, it fails, and then everybody dies.
Yeah.
And everyone is Godzilla poop, and then it goes into the sequel.
That is not what
Godzilla
happens.
Land,
That is not what happens.
2017.
I thought it was Flush Godzilla, the next one.
So what's interesting in this movie, I thought they had a whole conversation about. So Kayoko comes to the crackpot team of geeks, and she's like, "All right, here's all my grandfather's files on
Maki, Goro Maki.
Yeah, here's all Goromaki's files on this beast, and by the way, his name is Godzilla." Like she says it with an English accent, and she's like, because it is like a beast, but it is of God. It is a godlike creature. So they changed the meaning of the name because Gojira, the original, was the I just had this. I can Google it. It had a different meaning in Japanese before. It was a combination of
God and Zilla. Mozilla.
No, I
The
wasn't.
popular internet
I thought
browser.
it was like God.
No, it was never God. It was something else. Hold on.
God like
Fire
power or something.
God.
Like Go, like Hikari no Go, like the
Nope.
game Go. No.
Pokemon Go.
Oh, it was okay. It was a combination of gorilla, Godira is how they say it, and Kujira, which is whale. So
Gorilla whale.
So it's a gorilla whale.
gorilla whale.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad they changed it.
Did you know that so Legendary owns the rights for Godzilla for the
American distribution.
the English
Yeah.
releases of it, or the totally unique storylines that are not associated with Toho's at all. Anyway, so
Matthew Broderick.
they're planning in 2019 to do a King Kong. Or no, 2019 is the new movie, and then after that, they're doing a King Kong Godzilla crossover movie.
There's so many.
Are they gonna bring back Jack Black? I hope so.
There's so many. There's so many
much
more
fun in that
interesting
movie.
ones. There's so many more interesting Toho creatures that they could have used as opposed to Godzilla. I know Godzilla is just like, because it's Americans, but still, seriously,
Yeah.
Mothra movie, please.
But let's look at it this way. King Kong had to climb the Empire State Building. Godzilla was crushing buildings like with his chest that were that high.
That's true.
Like that's gonna.
It's not a very fair fight.
Just the size comparison alone, like they easily could have picked something better.
Sure.
If they put armor on King Kong and
All right,
he's
guys.
doing a full monster hunter
All
thing,
right,
then
all
I'm
right.
down with that.
If he becomes sentient,
Yeah.
that
would be
could be a
great.
fair fight.
King Kong's like just doing like math on his phone.
So I guess what was your favorite parts? Like, what did you guys
damn.
like? What was the thing that?
I thought it was quite impressive. I really felt like it was a Toho movie. Like I saw a lot more tokusatsu when they started doing. Basically, at the end of the movie, they've got this really elaborate plan to get Godzilla like prone on the ground to try to feed it the serum or whatever. And to do so, they have trains coming in to hit him from below, and then planes from above, and then they start having the buildings fall on him, and then they have more trains come. It's really cool. I just really like seeing all that stuff get destroyed. Like just you see the crumbling is quite. Yeah, it looks like it's practical effects.
Yeah.
I don't know if it is.
I'm glad that we didn't spoil this movie at all.
We don't know if they succeed. God damn it, guys. We did say in the middle of the show that don't worry about the spoilers.
You don't know how it ends though, so it's okay.
That's true.
But the effects in that part I think are just really great. It is kind of the climax. But I really like that a lot. Was my fave.
I gotta say the music's what did it for me.
Yeah.
It was.
Love it.
You could definitely hear that it was from a different time period, but it fit so well. I mean, there were a couple parts where I was like, this is really campy. This music selection is not the greatest right now.
But then you look at his googly eye and you're like, whatever.
But it just
It
like
made it a
really
good whole.
epic build-ups, and it definitely was. It was really fitting, and it was a nice throwback too.
I like that it was so. Like there were some parts where it was just so loud you could barely hear the dialogue, but it like made it really exciting. Like 'cause again, this
is about meetings.
This is about meetings, and Lauren mentioned on here, she's like the editing cuts made the sheer amount of bureaucracy work so well. It didn't feel like you were watching 2 hours worth of cabinet meetings, which is what it was. But also the music added that as well. It kind of got like pumps, like when the geek team got together, they started playing the drum music and then the guitar version of it.
So you gotta understand when they use that music, it's usually when a bunch of humans in Evangelion. This is once again, this is from Evangelion, so you can tell exactly what scenes they use it in. Is when they're fighting the angels. That's when it's predominantly used. Whenever a big battle is coming up, and usually that's all intercut with a bunch of people in front of monitors yelling stuff at like Shinji and Ren, like, oh, the monster's coming, and it's like, oh, you have only this much time left. And that's the way that it's cut. It's like it's the giant battle, and then these people yelling at you, and all these like graphic timers, and you'll see that a lot in the movie as well. But the way that they used it was just so it was so appropriate. You know what I mean?
It made it so exciting.
Even though they have a bunch of like bullshit explanations, it's just all like they're just talking out their ass about stuff that's like vaguely plausible, which is very anime. But you don't need to hear any of that because it's
in subtitles?
Well, it's in the subtitles. But also because the acting and the people are kind of like meshed together to where you're just like, I get where you're going with this. I don't need any of the small details. So they did that very well.
Yeah.
Also just the cool old school Godzilla music.
Yeah.
So good. So good.
It's so weird because like an American studio would never do that. That is just something like because they took the old mono mix, like they couldn't do anything with it because it was so old. But they're just like, let's just throw it in there, and it just works out so well. You can tell that it's like from old tapes, you know, but it doesn't even matter.
It's true, and like I noticed some of the visual shots as well. They weren't always totally clear in HD. They had some. I know they're trying to be like it might be a security camera or something, but it looked like it was just like an old camera shooting, And they switched kind of like the quality of film a couple times in the movie, and then even like again, I'm not like really. I mean, I review movies like on the show all the time and anime, but I'm not really like a camera person. I don't really understand to maybe explain better.
Sure.
But some of the shots of, especially the prime minister, are always quite like wide on him and like made his face look kind of like like
small compared to everyone else.
Yeah. There's a lot of that switching back and forth to that in the big group scenes I noticed too.
Yeah, because it's the way that the composition was usually for all these cabinet meetings were very like symmetrical. So the prime minister is always in the middle, and all the cabinets are always flanking him. Anytime there's a shot, he's always like in the middle, and a bunch of people, no matter what the angle is, he's always kind of in the middle.
And on top of that, he's centered in the middle, but I feel like they always showcase a lot of space between him, and even if it's a long like down the table shot, they always leave space between him and everybody else is just so crowded around. And I really think that spoke a lot to the fact that they were trying to humanize him and make people understand like this is every decision he makes
it's like a
is
lot of
all
pressure
on his shoulders.
Yeah.
Like, and even that's why to save 2 people, he
had to stop everything.
He stopped the potential to stop Godzilla. I mean, they didn't know if it would work or not, but
probably wouldn't have.
Yeah, but still, like they were able to like really humanize him and let us understand like, wow, that these decisions are big. They're not to be made lightly.
Yeah, and from what I remember, I'm not super up on politics of Japan, but they don't really like their prime minister. I don't think Abe is like
still
the
Abe?
best. Abe is their
I'm
pretty
pretty sure
minister.
he resigned like a couple of times, and did he just come back? I'm confused.
I don't know.
I swear to God, he resigned.
I know
Or maybe it's a
that
different
Abe is still there. I know that for a fact.
Yeah,
and they do not like him very much. So the fact that they're like kind of humanizing him and trying to give it this realistic
it's
kind of
version.
version.
Not Abe though. It was just like some other guy not representing him.
Yeah. So I just thought that's kind of interesting because it's like they're trying to humanize something that they're not really a fan of right now. So just the global politics in general can always you can polarize it one way or another. But this was a very realistic version where it just seems like he was just out of his depth basically.
Yeah. I agree. And then kind of to circle back with the global politics, we were talking earlier about how there's, we were trying to see if are they trying to portray the U.S. or the UN as an enemy. But I feel like the more I think about it, I feel like they were trying to put Japan in like a real world situation in this and show that, on paper, the decision the UN is putting out probably makes the most sense. But it was really cool to see them kind of gather together as a country and just say, okay, well that might be our fate, but we're not gonna
we will defy the gods.
We're not gonna accept it. We're gonna try everything we can, and we're gonna work together. And they kept mentioning it too when they were all gathering in groups. They were like, rank doesn't matter here. We just need to figure this out. Everyone's gonna work together. We're gonna put our profession aside and just make this happen. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
It really made me want a jumpsuit.
Yeah, really.
They're all wearing like suits.
So stylish.
The minister is like, all right, let me get my suit on, and it's like
it's a disaster suit. And you're just like,
he looks like a trash man.
It's a thing cool. that Japanese officials do, that whenever there is an emergency situation, or even if they're just going for a press conference, if there's like a national emergency or something, they have to wear that thing, and I don't really understand what the purpose of it is.
I can see that. I think it's really more like, hey, we're one of the people. Like, we know it's an emergency. We're getting suited up to deal with it, and that's. I feel like even just visually, even if they're not actually there and helping people move stuff or like evacuating people, it's still like, hey, we have that mentality.
We got the same outfit on. We're the same person.
Which kind of like I think about it, I'm like, man, it kind of did affect me, because when I saw the TV portions when they're doing the press conference and he was wearing that, it's like, why did he have to wear that? But like you then know like the gravity of the situation.
Shit is going down.
Yeah, this is like a real
everyone's
emergency.
Digging holes in the floor.
In the press room.
Because that's when Godzilla attacks, you just dig the biggest hole in your fucking life.
Are we gonna lines this?
I haven't even told you what
sorry, I forgot. I feel like you thought you were good. Tell me your favorite thing, Max.
My favorite part.
Max, tell me your favorite thing.
My favorite part is the military battle. That was my favorite part, is just when they're bombarding Godzilla with just all the artillery. And
the first time?
Yeah, the first time. And you gotta understand, I love military stuff too. So anytime I see it, like, and he just went through like all the tanks, I was like, that's cool.
Military otaku over here.
And I just like how he named everything. Like, I know that's like a super small thing.
It was unnecessary, but it was nice.
Yeah.
It made it feel more, I don't know, real.
Yeah, that's like
even though we didn't really know what they meant.
Yeah, we did.
It doesn't matter.
Max did. We did.
No, I didn't either. I just like the fact that he cared enough to like name all these things that he didn't really have to. It's just a stylistic thing that I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And of course Godzilla, because he has a pretty cool face. He looks really stupid, but there's like little things like, okay, so when he does his plasma breath, he has a little cover that looks like mercury that goes over his eyes to protect his eyeballs. And
someone told me that yesterday. I think sharks do that.
Yes, sharks have a cover over their eye
before they bite.
Yeah,
they shield them
from the blood.
Just from attack. And it's actually your best chance to get away from them because they can't see it.
Okay,
and I saw, and it's like those little things, because you look at him and you're just like, oh, this is,
he's very stationary.
It's hard to know like where he stands as like a creature, because I was watching the 2014 version, the new one with Bryan Cranston, and I really liked that one because it kind of had a lot of the things that I enjoyed about Godzilla, which is the other monsters and like pseudoscience crap. Love it. But the problem is that they never show Godzilla in in its entirety in the daytime. It's always at night. It's always in fog. It's always in some sort of these elements. And the daunting thing about Godzilla in this is that he just is there.
He's just chilling.
He comes out at day, and it's the clearest, nicest day. You could have a picnic if it wasn't for Godzilla.
Maybe
that's what he was trying to do.
Good picnic.
He just wanted a picnic.
Have a nice day.
That's so fucked up that we ruined this picnic.
I'm so sorry, Godzilla.
Yeah, but it's a good movie. I think I would treat it as, maybe even treat it more as an indie film than you would not classify this as like a Hollywood blockbuster. Like take all the kids to go. Like some people would not like how long the movie is, and it is a lot of meetings. But you have to really pay attention to enjoy the movie.
Yeah, but the pacing is still good, so it's really it's a lot more action packed than we're making it sound by saying it's a movie about meetings.
Yeah,
it's a lot of meetings.
It didn't feel that way by any means.
Yeah, it's basically, I guess the best way to put it is like it's a disaster movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just is the disaster.
Someone online asked if it was Mr. Habitina was asking if it was kind of like how you don't really see Godzilla very much in the movie, and it's like it does focus a lot on the humans and how they react to Godzilla, but you get
Godzilla's there.
Time.
Godzilla is always there. He's always like this daunting presence.
Mm-hmm. He's close by.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So rates. So this is the way that we rate. It's either it's thumbs up or thumbs down or just eh.
Yeah. So
on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Yep. Doc, he was like, "Hoo-ha!"
Oh, look at this guy!
We all liked it.
Psyching people out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I suggest that everyone watch it. Mm-hmm. It's out in select theaters 11th to the 18th of October.
Check Funimation.com for those show times.
Yes,
definitely worth it.
Yeah.
And definitely another shout out to Funimation for inviting us once again. Thanks to Justin Rojas. And yeah, so next week, what are we doing next week?
I don't know because I didn't research it. But I'll be leading next week. We're going to be always here on, sorry, you know how to say always.
New time.
Always here on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. from now on. So forget about us on Wednesdays. That's not happening anymore.
Yeah, so that's our new schedule. Hopefully you'll get to see more of us. And maybe a Tuesday will be a better time for us. And maybe we'll get some new people.
Or less. I don't know. We get a lot of people today. Okay.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Doc.
Do you have any plugs that you want to plug, like any social stuff, or just?
Where can we find you on the internet?
Yeah.
Twitter, the Doc213, and Instagram, DR_213. Gotta love those underscores.
Gotta love those underscores.
Yeah. Michelle?
You can find me everywhere on the internet at I am Chubby Bunny, and my name is Michelle. Chubby Bunny, win.
And you can find me at Max Salts, kind of like bath salts, but with Max in it. And it's not because I do drugs. So yeah, don't think that.
Because he's salty AF.
I am salty as fuck in real life.
Yep.
So anyway, we'll see you next week. Have a good one.
Bye.
Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network. We would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Popcorn Talk Network or its owners or principals.